Adulting is hard. You have to worry about bills, a job, 401k, health insurance, car insurance, utilities, everything. It gets crazy, it gets overwhelming. That's why we love to look through rose-tinted glasses at years gone by. Back to a time when all you had to worry about was your homework, eating your vegetables, and keeping your room clean. I was not the greatest at that last one, you can just ask my mom. Today, I want to take you back to that time. I am going to go over my personal list of the top 10 most nostalgic video games. Keep in mind, this is just my personal list of the games that give me the warm fuzzies in my heart. You will probably have an entirely different list. This isn't even a list of the best games. In fact, some of the games may not even be very good. Some of them might even be great. But the fact of the matter is, it's my own personal list. So without further ado, I bring you Fagelli's top 10 nostalgic games from my childhood.
Number 10.
Pitfall and Bowling on the Atari 2600. Okay, so this one's cheating a little, but this is my list, so
whatever, I do what I want.
I lumped these two games together because the Atari 2600 was my first experience with video games. It was my first home console that my family owned, and both Bowling and Pitfall were the games I played the most. For those of you who never played Atari, let me break it down for you. The graphics were very primitive, but they represented their items just enough for you to fill in the rest with your imagination. In the case of bowling, you were throwing a square ball at 10 slightly smaller square pins. It was basic to say the least, but still fun in its own way. Pitfall, on the other hand, is considered a gaming classic. Groundbreaking for its time, you slipped into the shoes of Pitfall Harry and progressed across randomly generated screens, avoiding alligators, scorpions, and various traps while swinging across pits and ponds to make progress, all the while collecting treasure to increase your score. These are the only Atari 2600 games on this list, but I still remember them fondly.
Number 9. Ghost Lion, the great role-playing game for beginners. Do you have the courage to survive in the lair of the Ghost Lion? How high are your hopes? How powerful are your dreams? How strong is your courage? You'll need them all to help Maria find her parents in the caverns of the Ghost Lion. Use your magic bombs, storms, and thunder wisely against zombies, goblins, and kobold.
Kobold's not in plural, it's just the singular? Okay, alright.
And Kobold, the monster with the face of a dog. Keep your companions close. Centaur, a half-man, half-horse. Tuana, spirit of the lamp. And faithful Moja?
How the hell do you pronounce that?
The spirit of the spear. It's the easiest way to get into role-playing, and only the biggest supply of courage will get you and Maria Rue. 3-player memory.
Well, it was a bit different than your standard RPG. Firstly, you played a girl as the main character, which was mostly unheard of in 1989. Second, they changed all the names of your stats, although there were only 3 real stats in the game. Hope, which was your level, courage, which was your health points, and dreams, which was like your magic points. It was similar to Dragon Warrior in many ways. Top-down world screen, towns and dungeons to explore, with battles taking place in a separate head-on view of the enemy. You didn't have to equip anything, you simply selected which weapon you wanted to attack with at the fight menu screen. Additionally, as you found magical items, you would be able to summon spirits to help you. You start with a magic spear and find a magic lamp in the intro level. Each time you summon someone, it takes away dream points. They then control as if you had another person in your party. So even though you only have one controllable character, you actually can battle using several at a time if you so choose. Leveling your character wasn't the standard grind either. You collected fragments of hope to gain levels, making it more akin to Legend of Zelda, collecting heart pieces. This game was awesome. Well, as a kid who wanted to play role-playing games, it was. This was the first role-playing game I ever owned. It helped me fall in love with the idea of the JRPG. After playing this mediocre RPG, I started renting others like Final Fantasy and Dragon Warrior, paving the way for me to experience such classics as Chrono Trigger, the best RPG on the Super Nintendo, in my personal opinion, and possibly one of the best RPGs ever made. Hell, even my brother, who doesn't care for RPGs and isn't really into gaming, loved Chrono Trigger. That's saying something right there. So thank you, Ghost Lion. You are an average game at best, but you helped to foster my love of role-playing games, allowing me to experience some of the best ones ever made.
Number 8, the Ocho.
Oh, Mega Man. Everyone loves Mega Man. Now, most people would put Mega Man 2 on their list, as I was tempted to do, but I never owned Mega Man 2. Sure, I played it at a friend's house, I rented it from time to time, and loved it. The only Mega Man game I had growing up was number 4. My parents managed to buy me a copy secondhand at a thrift store a year or two after its release for under $5 if I remember correctly. I loved it. It may not be looked on as favorably as number 2 or 3, but it was a classic in its own right. Sure, the boss names were starting to get a bit weird by now. I'm looking at you, Toadman. However, it was the first game to introduce you to the charging buster gun. That's right, all the prior Mega Man games you had to shoot those puny pew-pew bullets like some kind of peasant. But now you could charge up your gun like a boss and deal much more damage with only one shot. And it was the first Mega Man game to pitch you up against a protagonist that wasn't Dr. Wily. Instead, you had a new villain, Dr. Cossack. Spoiler alert. Seriously, if you don't want the game's ending spoiled for you, stop this video right now. Okay, fair warning. Yes, I know in the end it turns out Dr. Wily was behind it all, forcing Dr. Cossack to do his bidding by kidnapping his daughter. So really, it was Dr. Wily, but hey, it was refreshing at the time to think that Dr. Wily might actually have gone to the wayside in favor of a different bad guy. I suppose it could have been worse. They could have used Dr. Kevorkian. Not really sure how that would have played out, though.
Number 7.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, heroes in a half shell, turtle power.
Yes, that one. Yes, the original on the NES. Yes, the one with the hellishly unforgiving water level and all the enemies that have nothing to do with the original cartoon or comics. But hear me out on this one. Picture this. You're a kid in the late 80s. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are at the height of their popularity. You religiously watch the cartoon. You have all their action figures you could get your parents to buy for you. You have all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles swag. Bed sheets, toothbrush, posters, even underwear. Then all of a sudden you hear about this new game coming out for your Nintendo Entertainment System based on your favorite bunch of weapon-slinging, green-colored heroes in a half-shell. You squeal like a schoolgirl and beg your parents to buy it. You promise to be good. You promise to do chores. You say it can count as your birthday and Christmas gift if need be, but you just need that game so bad. As a kid who played it, I can say I loved it, simply because it was the Ninja Turtles. Strip away the Ninja Turtles and you have just another mediocre action platformer on the NES. As soon as the second Ninja Turtles game came out, we found out what a good Ninja Turtles game looked like. It made the first seem like a pile of trash, not fit for anyone, let alone a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fanboy. But at the time, when it was the only TMNT game in existence, all the kids clamored for it, myself included.
Number 6.
Commander Keen 4. How many of you have heard of shareware? Well, if you were into the PC gaming scene in the early to mid 90s, then you probably know the term well. id Software started distributing their games via shareware, meaning you got a free or almost free version of the game, typically featuring the first set of levels. For example, episode 1 or something like that. And if you want to play the rest of the episodes, you could order the full game via phone or mail or even fax machine. It was the 90s after all. Commander Keen 4 was one such game I had the privilege to play. It was kind of like the PC's answer to the Mario platforming games. Here's the premise. 8-year-old genius Billy Commander Keen Blaze receives an interstellar transmission while working on a photochion receiver, a radio that can receive signals anywhere in the galaxy. While the transmission is choppy, Billy manages to figure out that the galaxy is once again in danger from an alien race known as Shikati. In order to get more information about this threat, he sets out to consult the Oracle. But it turns out that the 8 council members necessary for the Oracle's activation have been kidnapped by the Shikati and imprisoned in the dangerous Shadowlands. Billy heads out to save the council members. As Keen, you would navigate the overworld screen to select the stage you wanted to go to, some stages being blocked until you advanced past a previous stage or until you collected the wetsuit. You'd use your trusty ray gun to stun enemies, your pogo stick to bounce to ridiculous heights, all the while collecting water drops, similar to coins in Mario. and other items to unlock doors and make it to the end of the level. This is the game that showed the power of what a PC could be capable of in the right hands compared to home consoles. Thank you, id, for such a wonderful classic. Oh, and if you're still not sold on it, there's a fully functional version of Pong you can play from the menu screen on Keen's wristwatch communicator. Game within a game. So meta.
Number 5.
Crystallis. This game was unique for several reasons. One, it combined action and RPG elements, so you have to fight enemies in a top-down overworld in real time, and by killing them you gained experience leveling up your character. Think Legend of Zelda meets Final Fantasy. 2, it was a fantasy game, but it was a sci-fi game. Let me explain. The game takes place in the distant future where technology has risen to the point of causing an apocalypse, destroying most of the human race. After humanity manages to rebuild itself, it comes to discover the lost art of magic. You are an android that awakens from a sealed cave to help the people of the world take down a powerful evil that intends to combine magic and technology to conquer the world. Number 3. It uses 4 elemental swords for battle, including items that increase their power, adding the ability to charge it up for devastating ranged attacks. Starting with the basic level 1 attack, a more powerful level 2 attack, and the magic point draining level 3 attack, obviously the most powerful of all. Enemies have weaknesses and strengths against each element: wind, fire, water, and thunder/lightning. Additionally, the swords were used to either destroy certain barriers or allow passage in areas to progress in the game, adding to their usefulness outside of combat. I loved this game and played it every chance I got. A friend of mine owned it and I would rent it pretty regularly from our local video rental store. There was some slight glitchiness and some translation errors, but the game was phenomenal in my eyes. My one big criticism is that you could only get your character to a max level of 16. So by the end you were still left with a challenge and couldn't be overpowering enough to just breeze through the enemies. I don't know if it was intentional or due to hardware limitations. If it was intentional, they could have picked any arbitrary number, 20, 30, 15, 25, but they chose 16, which makes me think more likely hardware limitations since memory is divided into blocks of 8.
Number 4.
I suppose you can easily tell I was an NES kid for the most part growing up, seeing as this is the 5th NES game on my list and it's only a list of 10 games. It's quirky, it's cheesy, it was made to pander entirely to the American market, it just screams the 90s.
Okay, so I'm looking for my uncle, but I'm not too sure how to find him, so I go to this island, right? And first I gotta talk to the chief, and then I gotta get this parrot to talk, and then I'm talking to these dolphins, and I'm sneaking around graveyards and shooting zombies and finding undersea tunnels, and then my sub cracks up on the rocks, and the next thing I know I'm cruising inside a whale. Whoa! Oh, new game for Nintendo, man! Startropics! Every chapter's like another adventure, so it's like a whole slew of games in one! What's the matter with you?
And it worked. Startropics was a great game that told a different tale than that of most games. With most games, you are on a quest to save the princess or save the world from some great evil. Here, you are Mike, a typical American teenager who sets off to look for his archaeologist uncle that went missing while looking through some ancient ruins. Set in a modern time, using things a kid would have access to as weapons to defend yourself. Yo-yos, a slingshot, baseball bat, and baseballs, as well as some not so common things. Fire stick, bola, ray gun, laser gun. It is a bit of a forgotten gem, seeing as Nintendo only made one sequel and never did anything else with the property. It was included on the recently released NES Classic plug-and-play console, which may allow new gamers to experience this classic in a whole new light. Oh, and your uncle's name is Jones. As in Dr. Jones. Get it? Like the other famous archaeologist named Dr. Jones? You know, he went around fighting Nazis and kept saying, "It belongs in a museum," and "Why did it have to be snakes?" Like I said, blatant pandering to the American audience. And it had an interesting version of anti-piracy. There was a physical letter inside the box of the game that, when soaked in water, would reveal a secret code that was needed to progress past a certain point in the game. So, if you didn't have the code, you could only go so far, and never actually complete it. I think this was Nintendo's way of giving the middle finger to the rental market, seeing as they didn't profit from game rentals, only game purchases. They even tried to sue Blockbuster Video and lost with the courts, saying that the owner of a physical cartridge can do with it as they please, including renting or loaning it out. However, Nintendo did have a small victory against Blockbuster because they were making copies of the game manuals, which did fall under violation of copyright laws. That's why most rental games didn't have manuals. Someone would lose the original, and Blockbuster would just not bother to purchase a replacement since they couldn't legally make a photocopy anymore. So, final note, try the game out if you get the chance. It's great fun. The sequel's a bit better, seeing as they made the combat and movement less blocky, and you could move in more than just the standard 4 cardinal directions, and you weren't locked to a grid. Either way, give it a go. You won't regret it.
Number 3.
Wolfenstein 3D. Back to PC games again. Wolfenstein 3D. If you haven't heard of it, then you really need to pay better attention to your gaming history. It was a masterwork of technical achievement by John Carmack and the crew of id Software back in 1992, only to be surpassed by their next smash hit, Doom. While Doom was the father of all first-person shooters, Wolfenstein 3D set the stage for Doom to build on everything it did so well, making it the grandfather of sorts. Besides, how could you not love running around killing Nazis? It's highly primitive by today's standards, but the idea of 3D gaming was the stuff of dreams back then. id had toyed with a 3D engine and made a few lackluster titles from it, but the one that counted was Wolfenstein. I remember fondly playing it on a friend's PC when my parents had them babysit us. I also remember them being hesitant to allow me to play what boiled down to a Nazi killing simulator. In the end, I am super glad I was allowed to play it and enjoyed every minute of mowing down evil Nazis, even though I typically couldn't make it much further than stage 2 or 3.
Number 2.
As much as I disdain Apple products and have always leaned towards the PC side, I do have fond memories of a game, of sorts, called the Manhole. It was kind of like Myst before Myst was a thing. In fact, it was created by the same guys who made Myst. It didn't really have puzzles so much as you just kind of explored this magical world that you were transported into by opening an ordinary looking manhole cover, hence the name. The original was in black and white on the old school black and white Macs that littered most schools when I was growing up. I would love having computer time and going to the computer lab to play on whichever game we chose. There was typically the Manhole, SimCity, and just playing around with the Paint app. The Manhole was my go-to game most often because it was just an amazing world to explore. Sure, it was meant for kids, but I was one, so it seemed so awesome at the time. It even included voice acting for all the weird characters you met along the way, including a beatnik dragon.
Hey, baby, welcome to my cool pad. Make yourself comfortable. Have a biscuit, baby.
French turtle.
Bienvenue, je m'appelle Monsieur Tortoise.
He said, welcome, my name is Mr. Turtle.
A tubby walrus.
Oh, yes, it's you. Well, make yourself comfortable while I take my nap.
And a Hindu elephant.
Hello, my friend. Please come and ride with me in my little boat.
I guess it technically wasn't even a game so much as an interactive slideshow of a fantastical world with bizarre characters.
Oh my, there's a tiny boat in my teacup.
Before I announce number 1, I want to give out a couple of honorable mentions.
Number 1.
Hero's Quest. Yes, Hero's Quest. You might be thinking, Hero's Quest? Is that really a thing? I don't recall that game. Why, it looks like Quest for Glory with the title screen changed to Hero's Quest instead. Well, you would be partially correct. 2 points for you. Good job. However, there's more to this story than you might expect. Heroes Quest was originally released by Sierra and designed by the talented husband and wife team of Corey and Lori Ann Cole. They named it Heroes Quest in order to keep it in line with the naming of Sierra's other titles, King's Quest, Space Quest, and Police Quest. However, Milton Bradley produced a board game around the same time titled Hero Quest. Now, I'm not sure if Sierra willingly changed the name to Quest for Glory in order to avoid copyright complications and confusion, or if they were given a cease and desist order from Milton Bradley.
Objection!
Either way, the name was changed, and now it's Quest for Glory, which seems almost as fitting as Heroes Quest, but just doesn't jive as well with all their other titles. The version I played was the original Heroes Quest. A friend of mine had it on his dad's PC, and I was lucky enough to get to play anytime I came over to spend the night. This game is amazing! It blends action, adventure, role-playing, and a ton of humor. The game never took itself too seriously, but damn, you need to save often, because just like any other Sierra adventure game, you will likely die quite frequently. There were your basic adventure game style puzzles, but because you could choose one of 3 different classes of character, there were multiple ways to solve each puzzle. You had the fighter, who was the brute force type that would burst through a door, the thief, who would pick the lock and sneak his way in, and the magic user, who would cast a spell to open the door. You had all your standard statistics that you would expect in any role-playing game. Strength, intelligence, agility, vitality, luck, magic, weapon use, parry, dodge, stealth, pick locks, throwing and climbing, along with health, stamina, and magic points. Each stat was raised based on usage. Keep trying to climb that tree and your climbing ability will go up. Can't open that locked door? Keep at it, your lockpick ability will increase. This was 17 years before Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion gave us something similar in their leveling system. Add in a day and night cycle with much more frequent and harder enemies at night, the need to eat and sleep, as humans basically need to do, and you have an immersive game that you can't help but dive headfirst into. It was named Computer Gaming World Magazine's Adventure Game of the Year in 1990. I cannot gush enough about how great this game is. They made 5 games in total for the series, each set in a unique land based on differing mythologies. The first was in a Germanic European style. The second, Trial by Fire, was set in an Arabian setting. The third, Wages of War, was set in an African tribal style setting. The fourth, Shadows of Darkness, was in a Romanian-style setting featuring vampires and the like.
Hello again. You are a most brave man to wander so freely in the Moldavian woods.
And the final entry, Dragonfire, was set in an ancient Greek-style setting. The kicker to all this is that each game allowed you to save your character and import him into the next game, 21 years before Mass Effect 2 allowed you to do it. Now, it wasn't as complex as Mass Effect since there weren't branching decisions that were transferred, but your character, items, money, and stats were all transferred over. The way they managed this so you wouldn't be overpowered in the next game is that all stats capped out at 100. Then they just increased the cap by 100 on each subsequent game. So by the 5th game, your stats could go up to 500 max. The combat is fun and engaging, albeit a little bit clunky, but the art is fantastic. Seeing a giant cheetar tearing at your face right in front of you can be quite startling as a kid, even if there was no blood. Those bad boys would kill you really quickly. This game was ahead of its time when it came out, and I still love playing it today. If you haven't experienced it and you enjoy role-playing games and adventure games, what are you waiting for? Get to it! It is easily available on goodoldgames.com, so, go for it. Oh, and don't drink the dragon's breath. Hey, thanks for watching my top 10 list. What's yours? Why don't you let me know down in the comments below what your 10 favorite games from your childhood were. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, and of course, catch you on the flip side.